Hey there, I'm Joe Carter. If you've ever popped the hood and thought, where do I even start? You're in good company. Around here, we take the mystery out of car repair, one fix at a time. Whether you're a beginner or just looking to sharpen your skills, there's something here for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're into learning without the headaches. All right, that's enough from me. Let's get into it.
Rear-wheel drive predates front-wheel drive in automobile design. The modern trend of automobile construction favors the front drive axle. Let's consider not only the reasons for this design decision, but also talk about which drive is better in management and operation. Let's compare front, all-wheel drive and rear drive axle types. Device. The peculiarity of using the rear drive is the variations in the location of the engine. For example, you won't find a rear-engined car that has front-wheel drive. Whereas, a rear-wheel drive car can have all kinds of layouts, front-engined, mid-engined, rear-engined. The use of rear drive axle in each of these types has its own peculiarities, advantages and disadvantages. But since in the modern world rear-engined and mid-engined cars are exclusive sports models, we will dwell in more detail on cars with an engine compartment in the nose. Schematically, the device of an archaic rear-wheel drive car can be depicted as follows. Engine, clutch, transmission, PTO components, coupling, spline joint, front PTO shaft, suspension bearing, front PTO joint, cross, rear PTO shaft, rear cross, cardan joint. Rear axle with main gear and differential, and 8 driving half axles, 9 wheels. Principle of operation. The rotation of the crankshaft through the clutch is transmitted to the gearbox, which in turn is connected to the cardan gear. It is through the cardan unit that the transmission of rotation to the rear axle is carried out. The cardan shaft cuts into the rear differential, which, depending on the difference in the coefficient of grip of the wheels with the road surface, distributes torque between the wheels through the axles. Distinctive design features. Continuing to talk about the device, let's compare the transmission design of a rear-wheel drive car with cars that have all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive. Of course, the engine, gearbox and clutch are elements present in all types of construction. The transmission of a front-wheel drive vehicle is designed to transmit torque through the drive axles, which are connected to the gearbox and wheel hub through ball joints, equal angle joints. It is the CV joints that allow to combine torque transmission and turning of wheels in the desired direction. This arrangement does not need a cardan gear and differential of the rear axle. The rear wheels are connected only to the hub assembly, since no torque is transmitted to them. Four-wheel drive. All-wheel drive requires all the elements used in the design of front and rear drives, as well as a transfer case. It is the transfer case that distributes torque between the front and rear axles. The all-wheel drive vehicle will have 2 inter-wheel differentials. There are different types of systems with individual features and disadvantages. For example, full-time all-wheel drive involves an inter-axle differential, the locking of which allows you to distribute torque between the axles depending on the situation. Options for connecting the locks largely determine the type of all-wheel drive. Locking can be carried out by a lever from the cabin or by pressing a button, after which the servo drive will carry out all the necessary manipulations. Modern cars are equipped with different types of self-locking differentials. It is the degree of locking and the difference in the torque transferred will determine the nature of the behavior of a car with all-wheel drive. Comparison with front-wheel drive. Now you know how this or that type of drive works. Next, let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of rear-wheel drive due to its design features. It is generally recognized that all-wheel drive stands apart in the dispute between rear-wheel drive and front-wheel drive, as it is a symbiosis of almost all advantages and disadvantages that each drive possesses separately. Therefore, in our comparison, we will focus on the differences between the two types of mono-wheel drive cars. This advantages the presence of a cardan assembly increases the cost of production. Of course, it multiplies the number of mechanisms subject to wear. Fortunately, manufacturers of foreign cars know how to make a cardan unit very reliable unit, which cannot be said about domestic manufacturers. Frequent failure of suspension bearings and crosses cause a lot of trouble to car owners. Failure of the cardan leads to vibrations, knocks when starting to move. The rear differential requires periodic oil changes and, in some vehicles, adjustment. Leaky oil seals may lead to loss of transmission fluid. Friction, on dry, very quickly puts the differential out of operation. Fortunately for owners of foreign cars, these features are characteristic to a greater extent for domestic cars. The need to reduce the volume of cabin space. The so-called salon tunnel is designed to accommodate under the bottom of the cardan shaft. Increase in weight and mechanical losses, which is facilitated by the presence of a cardan gear and differential. Rear-wheel drive has poor cross-country ability, since the rear axle is not loaded. Therefore, it is more difficult for the drive wheels to move the front axle. On older cars with rear-wheel drive, an uncut beam is used as the rear suspension. In this case, the differential is connected to the wheels by drive shafts through a splined connection. But this type of construction provides a weak level of comfort. Modern rear-wheel drive, as well as all-wheel drive, is equipped with semi-independent or independent suspension. In this type of construction, the joints are mandatory, which increases the cost of production of the car. Advantages: better axle weight distribution because the rear-wheel drive vehicle has a longitudinal engine layout. This weight distribution improves handling on dry pavement and also helps tires wear more evenly. More space in the engine compartment. This is again facilitated by the longitudinal location of the engine. This solution allows you to install a larger engine in the car. That is why this type of drive is used for sports or executive cars with large capacity engines. Smaller turning radius, greater maneuverability. The front wheels are not limited by the angle of rotation of the equal angle joints. Front-wheel drive loses out in this respect, as it cannot do without equal angle joints. Reduced vibrations transmitted from the engine to the steering wheel. The pivot axle is in no way connected to the heart of the vehicle. More dynamic acceleration on surfaces with a good grip coefficient. During acceleration, the vehicle squats, thus transferring the load to the rear axle. A rear-wheel drive car gets more traction on the drive axle. In a front-wheel drive car, the drive axle is unloaded during hard acceleration, which reduces the traction coefficient of the wheels. Note that this principle does not work in conditions of slippery surfaces. In this case, the weight of the engine of the front-wheel drive car, which will press on the leading axle, will allow you to get a more dynamic acceleration. Now you understand why all-wheel drive has such an advantage over mono-wheel drive. Rear-wheel drive is not the best choice for civilian driving. Controlling the vehicle on slippery road surfaces, wet, snowy, leaf-strewn, etc. requires some skill. Due to design features, a rear-wheel drive vehicle is prone to oversteer. Careless handling of the accelerator pedal can cause the car to skid. It is worth recognizing that both front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive cars have their own peculiarities in driving. Therefore, even if you do not choose rear-wheel drive, be sure to read how to cope with a skid. How rear-wheel drive works. In conclusion, rear-wheel drive vehicles offer a unique blend of advantages and disadvantages that cater to different driving preferences and needs. On one hand, they provide superior handling, better weight distribution, and enhanced performance, making them a favorite among driving enthusiasts. On the other hand, they can struggle in adverse weather conditions and may require more maintenance compared to their front-wheel drive counterparts. Ultimately, the choice between rear-wheel drive and other drivetrains depends on your driving style, the climate you live in, and your specific requirements. Understanding these factors will help you make an informed decision that best suits your lifestyle. Thank you for watching, and we hope this video has provided valuable insights into the world of rear-wheel drive vehicles.